I've talked quite a bit in the past about identity and how we form our identity. And today I wanted to introduce the theory that I use and that has helped me understand both myself and other people. This theory has been invaluable for me. I've really loved it. I've taught it for many, many years and in many different countries. And people have found it to be so powerful in understanding what's going on in their lives, how to relate to people better, and so on. The theory is called choice theory, and it was developed by Dr. William Glasser. And he calls it choice theory because it really is about having more personal choice. So this theory really has 5 major components to it, and in the series of blogs I'm going to do, I'm going to look at each component separately, because within each I think there's just some great material and some gems that we can really use. So the first component I want to start with are what Dr. Glasser calls the psychological needs. There are 4 psychological needs that he's identified, and they're genetic. They're built right into our DNA. And so that's a pretty interesting concept, that these needs psychologically could be part of that. The needs are, let's lay them out to start with, and then I'll talk about them each individually. So, first need is love and belonging. And that's not much of a surprise, I don't think, for anybody. We know that we're a social, interactional species. But the second need that he identified is a need for power. And that need is a lot more controversial. Many people think of power and abuse of power, and it's got a negative slant. And yet, power is an intrinsic need that we have as human beings. And so I'm going to talk quite a bit about that one. The third need, for freedom, is probably also not a surprise. I think most of us know how important our freedom is. But the last need that he identified that's a genetic need is the need for fun. And that's the one that I think is most surprising, because I was raised with work first, play second. Fun was not considered, an essential need in terms of how I was raised. And so how is it that fun could possibly be a genetic need? And the answer is it's tied to learning. When you think of yourself as a child, or you think of children learning, the learning and the play go together. It's a beautiful connection. The optimal way to learn is through play. And that's how fun gets on the scoreboard. All right, so today I'd like to focus on the need for power and our need for freedom. So let's start with power. Most people can see with children, and I remember with my son Timothy, that I could really see the transition when he went from love and belonging and connection with his parents and our family to the need for power. And many people call that stage that he was in the terrible twos, because you begin to see all the behaviors of saying no, it's mine, wanting to do things themselves. That need for power comes to the forefront in usually 1.5 to 2 years of age on into 3s. For many people, that's a struggle because they don't know how to handle that and how to channel that energy, that creativity that children show. But the need for power is absolutely healthy. And so now if we think about adults, how do we see the need for power showing up? Well, I could think of myself. When I was 10, 11, 12, my mom used to leave me in charge of my brothers and sisters, and I was called bossy. Well, bossy is really a reflection of the power need. I was trying to do a good job, follow through on what my mom wanted, and my brothers and sisters felt controlled. So wanting to be in control, needing to have the last word, always thinking you're right, wanting to know it all. These are all facets of people trying to meet their power need. And those are maybe slightly negative ones that I've given, because often we think of power and we can think of the negative side of it. But there's many examples of positive power. When you think of helping, teaching, guiding, mentoring, when you think of learning skills, knowledge, even when someone listens to you, All of those are positive sides of power. When we do random acts of kindness, that can be very empowering. And so power is a genetic need. The question is, are you meeting it in a way that's really serving you? Okay, let's go to freedom, because it often goes hand in hand with power. Having the power and the freedom to make choices. When I was first teaching the need of freedom, I used to teach it as just choices, that freedom is all about choice. But then I realized there's lots of people in this world, and you may be one of them, where you have lots of choices. In fact, it can be almost overwhelming, and you don't feel free at all. So what is real freedom? Well, it seems to have many different sides. There's physical freedom. If you've ever sat in an airplane for a long time, or in a bus, or in a crowded small car, you know what it's like when your physical freedom is restricted. We crave physical freedom. Secondly, emotional freedom. Human beings need to be able to express a full range of feelings, And when I was a child, for me, that was more challenging. My parents were uncomfortable with anger and with tears. And so they didn't like those emotions. They didn't want to see so much of that in their children. But having that full range of feelings is emotionally freeing. Intellectual freedom is another facet of it. What's intellectual freedom? It's creativity, it's imagination, it's visualizing, it's all the things we can do in our mind when we can just explore. It's a wonderful kind of freedom. And then there's also physiological freedom. Some of you may be very, very attached to the freedom of not wearing socks and shoes. You love to have bare feet. Or like me, I love my skin in the sun. I love wind in my hair. It's a physical sensation. Some of you may like water. Others of you notice how good you feel with exercise because of the chemicals that flood your system. That's all physiological. So freedom is really multifaceted and very important. So I'd like to leave you with an invitation for this next week. I'd like you to write down the needs: love and belonging, power, freedom, and fun. And then on a 10-point scale, 0 to 10, rate yourself in terms of how much you feel you're getting in terms of each of those needs. And then choose the lowest, or if there's two, choose the lowest two of the needs. And this next week, put your attention on them. Try bringing up the needs that are the lowest, because the needs are actually equal in importance. They're like the 4 legs of the chair. You need all 4 legs to be balanced, to really feel good in life. So if you bring up, if freedom is low, or if fun is low for you, or if it's love and belonging, whichever need it is, put attention on that and see if you can bring that up and notice how your whole system responds when it's getting more of what it needs. The other thing I think I've noticed and I want to point out is many of us are meeting our freedom through what I call fake freedoms. Instead of genuinely feeling free, what we're doing instead is we're having a coffee or a drink or a smoke or even shopping. These are all fake freedoms. They do not really deliver. And so I invite you to take a moment, just stop. Think of when you felt free, really free. Maybe it was a holiday, a time out of time, on a retreat, whatever it was. Go inside and feel what freedom really feels like. And then consider how much of that true freedom are you getting on a daily and a weekly basis. Okay, so my invitation is, let's see if we can bring up the needs that are not getting met so strongly. All right, and if when you're doing that you feel guilty, if guilt creeps in there, I want you to notice that as well. Because in another blog, I'm going to talk about guilt and how that can really hijack us meeting our needs and what to do about it. Okay, I hope you have a great week. Send me your comments, send me your questions. I love getting them. Thanks for listening.